Hey, so you're looking at the Kurzweil K2061 and wondering if it's the right synth for you, right? I get it, there are so many keyboards out there, and it's easy to get stuck trying to figure out which one actually fits your workflow without wasting money. If you want to dig into the details, the link is in the description so you can check the product page on Amazon. This isn't one of those generic MIDI controllers that just sends notes to your DAW. The K2061 is a full-fledged synthesizer with its own sound engine, which means you're not just playing virtual instruments, you're playing an instrument that makes its own sounds. That's a big difference if you're trying to create music without relying on a computer or external plugins. The V.A.S.T engine is Kurzweil's take on variable architecture synthesis, and it combines virtual analog and FM synthesis in a way that gives you a ton of sonic flexibility. If you're into electronic music, ambient textures, or even cinematic sound design, this synth can actually do a lot without needing extra gear. But here's the thing, if you're just starting out and your main goal is to learn piano or trigger samples, this might be overkill. You'd be paying for features you won't use right away, and there are cheaper keyboards that do the basics just fine. On the other hand, if you're already making music and you're tired of scrolling through presets in your DAW or dealing with latency from software synths, the K2061 gives you hands-on control over sound creation. That tactile feedback matters when you're tweaking envelopes or modulating parameters in real time. One thing I noticed is that the 61-key setup is great for portability, but if you're used to a full 88-key weighted action, the synth action keys might feel a bit light for classical or virtuosic playing. That's not a deal-breaker for most producers, but it's worth considering if you're splitting your time between live performance and studio work. The Aftertouch adds another layer of expressiveness, which is awesome for leads and pads, but it's something you'll only appreciate if you actually use it. If you're just playing chords or simple melodies, you might not notice the difference. The polyphony count is solid at 256 voices, so you won't run into voice stealing issues even with complex layered patches. That's especially useful if you're stacking multiple synth layers or using split modes. The factory programs are where this synth really shines. Over 2,000 presets and 587 multi-combinations means you're not just getting a few basic sounds. You're getting a library that covers everything from vintage analog emulations to modern digital textures. If you're someone who likes to dive deep into sound design, the VA1 virtual analog engine and the 6-operator FM engine give you a lot to experiment with. You can blend these engines in the V.A.S.T framework, which opens up possibilities that most all-in-one workstations can't match without a computer. Where this synth might fall short is in workflow efficiency. Since it's a standalone unit, you're limited to its built-in sequencer and arpeggiator, which are functional but not as intuitive as a DAW or even some modern groove boxes. If you're used to in-the-box production, the K2061 forces you to think differently about sequencing and arrangement. That can be a pro or a con depending on how you work. It's great for sketching ideas quickly, but if you need detailed editing, you might find yourself wishing for a screen that's a bit more modern or a workflow that's less menu diving. Another thing to keep in mind is the learning curve. Kurzweil's V.A.S.T system is powerful, but it's not as immediately intuitive as some other synths. If you're new to synthesis, you might spend a lot of time in the manual before you start making sounds you actually like. That said, once you get the hang of it, the depth is really rewarding. It's the kind of synth that grows with you, so if you're serious about sound design, it's worth the initial effort. So, who should buy this? If you're a producer, composer, or sound designer who wants a standalone synth with real hands-on control and a massive internal sound library, the K2061 is a fantastic choice. It's especially useful if you're tired of relying on a computer for every sound and want something that feels more like an instrument. If you're into live performance, the Aftertouch and the ability to create custom patches on the fly are huge advantages. Who should skip it? If you're a beginner who just needs a simple MIDI controller to trigger samples or learn piano, there are more budget-friendly options that will do the job without overwhelming you. Also, if you rely heavily on DAW integration or need a ton of built-in effects, this synth might feel limited compared to a full workstation. At the end of the day, the K2061 isn't trying to